Space Ace by Eric Brown. Chapter 1, Blast Off.
I was reading Grandad's amazing space journal in my room. Sorry. It was a kind of diary full of facts. The wall screen came on. It was Grandad. He smiled at me from the screen. "I've done it, Billy," he said. I jumped up from my chair. "You have? You've really done it?" Grandad grinned. He looked happy, with his wild grey hair like a mad professor and his big smile. "I've got the Falcon Mark II spaceship running. I was thinking..." He stopped and looked at me. "Yes?" I asked. My heart was beating like a drum. "I was thinking, Billy, that you might like to test fly it with me." I was so excited that I couldn't say a word. I just nodded. "Good," Grandad said. "Meet me at the spaceship junkyard in 5 minutes. I'm on my way." The screen went blank. I ran from my room and grabbed my jacket. Mum was in the hall. "Billy," Mum said, "where are you going?" "Over to Grandad's," I said. "I don't want him taking you up in one of his old spaceships," she said. "Don't you trust him?" I asked. "Billy, it's not I don't trust him, it's just that when he was still working as an astronaut, he had a crash in space." "He never told me," I said. Mum shook her head. "Perhaps you should ask him about it," she said. "And remember, no spaceships, okay?" But I was already running out of the house. Grandad was my hero. He had been an astronaut for many years, but now he ran a spaceship junkyard.
What's a junkyard?
A junkyard is,
I've heard of it, but I don't know.
Yeah, a junkyard is like, old cars.
Yeah.
Well, you can use bits of old cars on cars that are still working. Yeah? So if you say, I need a new steering wheel, I'll get one from this car that's actually not working and put it on my car that's working. But where the old cars go to be reused is called a junkyard.
Because the engine controls everything.
Yeah. So you can take bits of an engine from an old car, for example, and make your existing car work. And Billy's...
For longer.
Yeah. And Billy's granddad is doing that with spaceships. So he has spaceships that are very old or don't really work anymore.
Or have crashed.
And he says, all right, well, it's crashed, but this bit of it's still good, so I can, use that again on a spaceship, another spaceship.
No.
Yeah?
Oh, I got it.
Got it?
It's like a shop which has...
It is exactly like a shop, yeah. It is a shop, yeah.
It's a type of shop.
It's a type of shop, yeah.
That sells stuff.
And that's actually, yeah.
That sells, like,
Bits
machinery.
Bits of old spaceships.
Or bits of anything.
Probably, other things as well.
Like to be spaceships, otherwise...
Oh, hang on, look, it's going to tell you what it is now. It was a great place full of bits of old spaceships, fins and wings and huge engines. There were whole spaceships in the junkyard too. I loved to climb inside these, strap myself into the pilot seat and pretend I was flying through space. I ran through the junkyard past piles of twisted metal and the nose cones of old starships. It made me... Thank you.
What?
Thank you.
What?
It made me excited to think that all this scrap metal around me had once travelled through space on exciting trips to planets and faraway stars. Grandad was the first person to set foot on Mars back in 2035. What year are we in?
2024.
Correct. So, have we got to 2035 yet? No. So, is this book set in the past, the present, or the future?
The past.
No.
No, the present.
It could only be in the present if it's in 2024. So, because this is a higher number than 2024, it's actually set in the future.
Huh? It makes no sense because we're before the future.
Yeah. That's crazy, isn't it?
Was it the future and the...
It's actually not...
Was it in... Oh.
It's actually not set in 2035. It says that was 40 years ago, so it actually must be set in 2075. But now Grandad was too old to be an astronaut. A few years ago, he bought the junkyard so that he could be near the spaceships he loved so much. He liked to build them from all the bits in the junkyard. Last year, he mended a huge one and took me for a short flight around the world. Grandad also wrote a big journal full of amazing facts about the solar system. I was always reading it. I thought about what Mum had told me. Grandad had never said anything about a crash. Was that why he stopped being an astronaut? The spaceship was silver and shaped like the head of an arrow. "Welcome aboard the Falcon," Grandad said, poking his head through the sliding door and waving at me. I ran up the ramp and into the ship and stared around me in amazement. "It's fantastic," I said.
There's actually buttons everywhere.
Yeah. Good picture. 2 seats had been placed in front of a large view screen. There were more seats behind, like a bus, with view screens all around the side. "It used to be a tourist ship, Billy," Grandad told me. "In the old days, it took people on trips around the solar system, flying close to all the planets." "Can we do that?" I cried. "No," Grandad said. "We're just going on a quick orbit of the Earth to make sure the ship works. Strap yourself in the co-pilot seat and we'll blast off." I sank into the seat and strapped myself in. I wondered if I should ask him about the crash, but decided to leave it till later. Grandad sat in the pilot seat and ran his hands over the control panel. "Hold tight, Billy. We're taking off." I was pushed back in my seat as the Falcon roared and shot into the air like a bullet.
Chapter 2, Mercy. Chapter 2, Mercy.
Try sounding it out more slowly.
Murky.
Very close.
Murky.
Mercury.
Mercury.
Excellent.
That was hard.
That was hard. And it's a name as well, so it's double hard. I looked through a side screen at the ground. I could see the city getting...
It's hard because it doesn't have the letters in.
Yeah, it's hard because sometimes names...
Sometimes there's like invisible letters.
Yeah. Names don't seem to follow the same patterns as ordinary words.
Yeah, I got it.
The streets looked like a map. We had to go fast to escape the Earth's gravity, which tried to pull us back. Grandad said...
Why?
Because Earth has got a gravitational field. So, if you drop something, everything goes down. That's because we've got gravity.
Huh?
Yeah? If you drop something, it doesn't go up. It goes down.
What if it's like a balloon and you let go of it?
Well, that's...
Some balloons.
Yeah, like
go
a
up.
helium balloon. That's different. That's because it's lighter. Be very careful, please. That's because it's lighter than air. So that does rise, but that's slightly different.
I had one of them.
Huh?
My birthday.
Yeah.
I dropped that and then that went up.
That was so sad. I think that was was that your third birthday or your fourth birthday?
I think my third.
I think you're all right. And it just, you said, my balloon, it's going to space. Oh, that really did upset you. It still upsets you, doesn't it? Oh.
I'm still upset until I was 4, 5, 6, 7.
It was an amazing balloon.
4, 5, 6.
Right.
Wait, what did it look like?
I think it was silvery dark blue. And it was a number. Grandad said, "We're leaving planet Earth behind us, Billy, and heading off into space. My word, this does bring back memories." Soon, the Earth was a small ball below us. Grandad tapped the control panel. He was frowning. I said, "What's wrong?" "Strange," he said. "The controls aren't working properly." We were heading away from Earth. Instead of going round it, it was getting smaller and smaller. A loud voice cried, "Emergency! Emergency!" "What was that?" I said. "The ship's computer," Grandad said. "Something's gone very wrong." I gripped the arms of my seat and stared through the view screen. All I could see was blank space, and then, in front of us, the distant sun. "We're heading for the sun," I whispered. Grandad was still trying to work the controls. He was pressing button after button and looking worried. Sweat ran down his face. Nothing was happening. We were still heading towards the sun. "Emergency! Emergency!" Grandad said. "Computer, why aren't the controls responding to my commands?" The computer said, "Override, override." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means that the original computer that was in the tour ship has taken over," Grandad said. Suddenly I heard a sound behind me. "Ladies and gentlemen," said a voice, "welcome to Solar System Tours. We hope you enjoy your flight, your trip."
Don't know what human voice.
Okay. "Ladies and gentlemen," said a voice, "welcome to Solar System Tours. We hope you enjoy your trip around the solar system." I spun round in my seat. A man in a blue uniform was standing behind us. He was talking to the empty seats around him. He looked like a shimmering ghost. I could see right through him. "It's a holographic tour guide," Grandad said. "You mean it isn't really a man?" I asked. "And anyway, what does holographic mean?" "It's a kind of image made from light," said Grandad. He stood up, reached out, and passed a hand through the ghostly guide. "But we're still heading towards the sun," I cried. The holographic guide said, "Wrong, space ace." "My name's Billy," I said. "We're heading towards Mercury," said the guide. Grandad said, "Billy, it looks like you got what you wanted. We're going on a tour of the solar system." The guide said, "You're right, sir, and I'm your guide. I'll talk you through your tour of all the planets in Sol's system."
Solar system.
Sol is the name of our sun, by the way. And if you've got any questions, any at all, please ask. Great, I said. Do all right, said the holographic guide. You can see the planet Mercury. It is the second smallest planet in the solar system, and it has no atmosphere around it, no air or gases of any kind. It is 58 million kilometres from the sun. I stared out at the tiny grey planet, covered with thousands of round crater holes. Mercury, said our guide, moves around the sun very fast. This means it has the shortest year of any planet, just 88 Earth days long. During the night, it's very cold, 180 degrees centigrade below zero. But during the day, it's hot, around 430 degrees centigrade. It would be impossible for human life to exist on Mercury. I watched the small grey ball as we looped around the planet and flew away.
What's the sound?
Can't tell.
Does it go very slowly?
Does what go very slowly?
No, does the rocket go very fast, but the humans think... And the humans think it goes very slow.
No, I think it goes very fast because they just told us it's the fastest planet to go around the
No,
sun.
the rocket.
Oh, the rocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the rocket must go super fast. Faster than you can even imagine.
Huh? Is it faster than a rocket car?
Mhm.
Is it?
Mhm.
Is that actually?
Yeah, definitely.
How do you know?
Because you need to be going really, really fast to get to Mercury because it's such a long way away.
What's the fastest thing in the world?
Concorde, I think.
What's Concorde?
It's a special plane with a pointy nose that goes faster than the speed of sound.
It's called Blackbird.
No, I think it's called Concorde.
Right, search Concorde now, and then I want to see a picture.
Let's do that tomorrow because it's sleeping time now.
Quickly.
Mm-mm.
Quickly.
It's time for sleeping. You're already very tired. Something to look forward to tomorrow. I watched the small grey ball as we looped around the planet and flew away. And now we're heading towards the second planet out from the sun, said our guide, Venus.
Huh? Chapter 3, Venus.
Grandad turned to the ghostly tour guide. How long will we be in space? He asked. The tour will take just 2 days, said the guide. We will be travelling at top speed all the way. The guide stepped forward and pointed through the view screen. In front of us, ladies and gentlemen, you can see the planet Venus, which is 108 million kilometres from the sun. The planet soon filled the view screen. It was covered with what looked like pale yellow clouds. Venus is the closest planet to Earth, said the guide. Oh, sorry. Venus is the closest planet to Earth, said the guide, but it is even hotter than Mercury. This is because clouds made from carbon dioxide trap heat on the surface and don't let it escape. The surface temperature is 480 degrees centigrade. That is more than 4 times hotter than boiling water. In 1975, a Russian unmanned space probe, Venera 9, landed on Venus and sent back pictures for nearly an hour before it burned up. These pictures showed a surface of sharp rocks and huge stones. We sped away from Venus and I watched the planet get smaller and smaller. Now we will soon pass planet Earth, said the guide, but I won't say anything about this planet because I think you know all about it already. After Earth, we will fly closer to Mars. Mars, I thought. I glanced at Grandad. He was staring through the view screen. I wondered if he was thinking about the planet, which he had visited more than 40 years ago.
Chapter 4, Mars.
We passed Earth, a round ball covered with blue seas and bright white cloud. Grandad said, "I'll try and get in touch with your mum. She'll want to know where you've got to." He reached for the two-way radio, but I said, "No, don't." He looked at me. "Billy, what is it?" I looked away. "It's only, you see, Mum didn't want me to go into space with you," I whispered. "She said something about a crash." Grandad put an arm around me. "Billy," he said, "I've never told you before. I was in a crash. It was my fault." I stared at him. His eyes had a faraway look. We were on our way back from Saturn. We were just coming through the asteroid belt. I was piloting and, well, I crashed the ship into a spinning asteroid. I wasn't thinking fast enough and I lost control. It was my fault." He stopped and then he said, "1 man died. I hurt myself quite badly. That was the last trip I did. The truth was, the space agency didn't want me after the crash." He turned away and stared through the view screen. I didn't know what to say. I just reached out and held his hand. 1 hour later, I looked through the view screen at the red planet, Mars. The guide said, "In the year 2035, Commander William Jones was the first person to set foot on Mars." I glanced at
Where was
Grandad.
he actually?
That's well, 2035. What year are we in?
2025.
No, 2020.
4.
Yeah. So have we had the year 2035 yet?
No.
So is it true?
No.
No, it's not. So do you know who Commander William Jones is?
No.
Who's that?
Commander William Jones.
Yeah, he's the Grandad. I glanced at Grandad. I could see tears in his eyes as he stared down at the red planet. "It seems just like yesterday," he whispered. The guide said, "Mars is..." "Please," said Grandad. "I'll tell Billy all about Mars if you don't mind." The guide bowed and fell silent. Grandad said, "Mars is smaller than Earth, Billy, and is 228 million kilometres from the sun. It's very cold on the surface of the planet. When my team and I were there, the temperature could be anything between -27 centigrade and -133. You would freeze to death if you didn't wear a spacesuit to protect you. He smiled and shook his head. Some scientists thought that life might exist on Mars. We looked everywhere and made experiments, but we didn't find anything. Many millions of years ago, there might have been life, but Mars has been slowly moving away from the sun, getting a little colder all the time. I stared down at the craters and the long lines scored across the face of the planet, which looked like canals.
What? What are they?
I think they're the moons of Mars, but you'll have to wait and see. We landed near Olympus Mons, Grandad said. It's a huge dead volcano, 26 kilometres high. There, you can see it. He pointed.
Where is it?
You have to think about it in your mind because it's not in that picture. He pointed and I could see a big circle, dark red against the pinkish sands of Mars. And there, Grandad said, pointing through the view screen,
What is the top?
are the two moons of Mars, Phobos and Deimos. That's the picture. I watched them spin past the ship. They looked like knobbly potatoes. Phobos is 27 kilometres long, Grandad said. Deimos is slightly smaller, just 15 kilometres at its longest point. They're getting closer to Mars, and one day they'll crash into its surface. The ship turned and headed away from the red planet. Grandad reached out and gripped my hand. In a short while, said the tour guide, get ready for the fantastic sight of Jupiter.
Chapter 5, Jupiter. I said it correctly.
3 hours later, Grandad pointed through the view screen.
Stop saying view screen.
Why?
It's saying view screen. It's saying like
You should just say screen. Or
Not
window. Yeah, I do agree view screen doesn't quite work, but there we go. That's amazing, I cried out. Jupiter, said the guide. It is about 778 million kilometres from the sun, and it's the biggest planet in the solar system. Not only was it the biggest, it was also the most colourful. It was covered with stripes of cloud, orange and brown and yellow. Jupiter is what is called a gas giant, said the guide. You cannot see the surface of the planet. It has a rocky core about the size of Earth, but this is covered by a layer of liquid metallic hydrogen.
What's that?
Well, hydrogen is
No, wait. Say that again.
Jupiter is what is called a gas giant, said the guide.
What's a gas giant?
Well, it's a planet made of gas. You cannot see the surface of the planet.
What gas?
Huh?
What gas?
I'm getting to that. It has a rocky core about the size of Earth, but this is covered by a layer of liquid metallic hydrogen, 33,000 kilometres thick. On top of this is a covering of liquid non-metallic hydrogen, 22,000 kilometres thick. And then a thick atmosphere of hydrogen and helium gas, just 1,000 kilometres thick. So hydrogen is one of the main ingredients in water.
Huh?
Yeah, water is made of two parts of hydrogen and one bit of oxygen.
And helium is, you know, when the balloons float up on their own?
Yeah.
And that's because they're filled with helium gas.
What's helium gas?
Well, it's that gas that makes balloons float up in the air. There's the red spot, I cried, pointing to Jupiter. I was very excited. Jupiter was famous for its huge red spot. The red spot is really a storm, the guide told us. It has been raging round Jupiter for hundreds of years. The spot is 40,000 kilometres long and 11,000 kilometres wide. We flew closer to Jupiter so that it filled the entire view screen. This is as close as we can come to the planet, the guide said. Jupiter throws out a lot of radiation, which is dangerous to human beings. Look, Grandad said, the moons. We were flying next to 2 big moons, and I could see other moons in the distance, all circling around giant Jupiter. Jupiter has more than 60 moons. Ganymede is the biggest moon in the solar system, even bigger than the planets of Mercury and Pluto. Scientists think that a long time ago, some of the moons might have been planets like Earth and Mars, but they were captured by Jupiter's strong gravity, and now they circle the gas giant forever. I looked at the guide. Have we sent any unmanned rockets to Jupiter? In the 1970s, Pioneer 10 and 11 flew past the planet, and they sent back their first close-up pictures of Jupiter and its moons. Through the view screen, I saw a faint ring system. Through the view screen, I saw a faint ring system. I pointed. I didn't know Jupiter had rings, I said. The guide grinned. In 1979, the Voyager 1 probe discovered a system of rings made up of millions of tiny grains of dust. Could we live on the moons? I asked. Perhaps on the outer moons, the guide said. But even then, we would have to live in special domes to protect us from Jupiter's strong radiation. I stared at the planet as we moved slowly away. Goodbye, Jupiter, I whispered. Goodbye, red spot.
Tab 6, Saturn, with another ring.
Saturn is the second biggest planet in the solar system, the guide said. And do you know why it is famous? Because of its rings, I said. Correct. I thought that Saturn was the most lovely thing I had ever seen. The big light brown planet filled the view screen. Around the middle of the planet was the famous ring system. Each ring was a different colour. Silver and gold and black, all shining in the light of the planet. Saturn is another gas giant, said the guide. Like Jupiter, it has a rocky core. And like Jupiter, it has a layer of liquid metallic hydrogen, but it's thinner, about 15,000 kilometres thick. And above this is another layer, this time of liquid non-metallic hydrogen, which is 25,000 kilometres thick. On top of all this is a thin atmosphere of hydrogen and helium gases.
What's in the middle of the sun?
I don't know.
Is it the hottest thing in the world?
well, I think it would be even hotter than this world. I don't know, maybe this book will tell us in a minute. We'll have to see. The guide pointed through the view screen. Saturn has more moons than any other planet. Do you know how many moons it's got, Space Ace? My name is Billy, I said. I think it has more than 30 moons that we know of. That's right. Scientists think that perhaps it once had many more, but they smashed into each other and shattered into millions of bits of rock. These tiny bits of rock formed the rings that we can see today. How far away is Saturn from the Sun? I asked. The guide smiled and said, it is 1.4 billion kilometres away. 1.4 billion kilometres, I thought. I looked through the rear view screen. Our sun was a tiny shining star in the distance. Grandad was staring out at Saturn. My very last mission was to Saturn, he said. He looked sad. I decided not to ask him about it.
Oh, chapter 7. Uranus.
It was another 3 hours before we reached the next planet, Uranus. We were now even further away from home. The guide said Uranus is 2.9 billion kilometres away from the sun.
I was going to say 2.5.
I was going to, yeah, sorry. But I didn't.
It's 2.9 billion.
It is smaller than Saturn and has an atmosphere of hydrogen, helium and methane, which means that no human being could breathe on it. Like Jupiter and Saturn, Uranus is also a gas giant. Also like Saturn, it has a ring system. Uranus was not as lovely as Saturn. It was pale blue-green, and its rings were faint and tilted towards us. I pointed. Is that a moon? Correct, Space Ace. I was getting mad by then. My name, I said, is not Space Ace, I'm Billy. From the corner of my eye, I saw that Grandad was laughing. Once we're back on Earth, I'll have to fix the computer program, he said. The guide was saying, Uranus has more than 25 moons. The largest is Titania. We raced past Uranus. And now for Neptune.
Chapter 8, Neptune.
Neptune, yeah, good. Now we are 4.5 billion kilometres away from the sun, and in front of us you can see the planet Neptune. I thought about all those kilometres. Every day I walked a kilometre to school.
What?
And Neptune was 4.5 billion kilometres from the sun. I felt dizzy thinking about it. Neptune was the same size as Uranus and had 4 rings. It was a bright blue colour and hazy. It looked cold. Like Uranus, the guide said, the atmosphere of Neptune is made up of hydrogen, helium and methane. The weather on Neptune is perhaps the oddest thing about the planet. Storms last for hundreds of years and blow at over 600 kilometres per hour. Just try to hold on to your umbrella in that. I looked over at Grandad, who whispered, I think he's trying to be funny. Does Neptune have any moons? I asked. It has 13 known moons, said the guide. The biggest is Triton, and it is famous for being the coldest known object in the solar system. Its surface is 235 degrees centigrade below zero. We flew around the planet. A minute later, the guide said, "If you look to your left, you will see Triton." We raced past a great brown ball. We were so close that I thought for a second that we were going to hit it. There is another interesting fact about Triton, the guide said. Scientists predict that in less than 100 million years, Triton will come so close to Neptune that it will be torn up into millions of tiny pieces. It might even form a ring system like Saturn's. I thought about that and all the other facts the guide had told me. What a story! What a story I would be able to write on Monday when my teacher asked the class about what we did at the weekend. And now the tour of the solar system is almost over. The last planet is also the smallest, Pluto.
Chapter 9, Pluto.
We were out on the very edge of the solar system now, nearly 6 billion kilometres from the sun. Pluto is the 9th planet from the sun, the guide said. Scientists think that once, a very long time ago, it may have been a moon of Neptune, and that it smashed into another moon and was pushed out to the very edge of the solar system, like a snooker ball. We were getting close to Pluto.
What's a snooker ball?
You know when we were in
Germany?
Gran Canaria?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was like a table and it had a green fabric on it and it had balls underneath. That game is called snooker. And you hit the balls with a stick. Like this. You poke the balls with a stick.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, do you remember that?
No.
Pop Pop is absolutely amazing and he's won lots of prizes for that.
Why? How?
Well, it's a game that's quite often played in pubs. Is that okay? So that's what a snooker ball is. It's part of that game. But the point is, what you have to do is you try and have to put the balls in the holes around the edge of the table by hitting one ball into another ball. So what they're saying is...
Oh, I know what snooker is.
Yeah, you know what it is.
Is there a table?
Yeah, there is a table, yeah.
Oh, it's like pool.
It is, yeah, it's like the same as pool, yeah.
It's
just
pool.
It's the same as pool, except the balls are different colours.
So it's basically pool.
Yeah. We were getting close to Pluto. It was tiny and round and made of ice, like a bright blue snowball. Pluto is the smallest planet in the solar system and the coldest. Its surface temperature is around 225 centigrade below zero. It is made up of frozen methane, which is why it is blue. It takes more than 248 years to go round the sun. We shot round Pluto in a huge loop. If you look through the view screen to your left, you will see Charon. This is Pluto's only moon, and it is about half the size of Pluto. We raced away from Pluto.
Let's go.
Is there a Sharon at school?
Yeah.
Who's that? The dinner lady?
Yeah. And Wendy. You know Wendy?
No. Oh, Wendy, yeah, that's one of Kitty's friends' mums. Yeah.
Who?
That's one of Kitty's friends' mums.
Is it actually?
Yeah. Oh, it might not be the same person then. We raced away from Pluto and its moon
You don't know. I know her.
and off towards the sun, which was a tiny twinkling star in the distance. And now we begin the long flight home, the guide said. We will reach Earth in just under 1 day. However, there is one more thing to see before then. I thought about that. What hadn't we seen so far on our trip around the solar system?
Some.
The asteroids, I said.
Yeah. Chapter 10. Asteroids and Home.
Let's get some sleep, Grandad said. The guide will wake us when we reach the asteroid belt. We pulled 2 bunk beds from the wall and lay down. I couldn't sleep though. My head was full of all the fantastic sights I'd seen. I must have fallen asleep at last because I was awoken by the computer calling, "Emergency! Emergency! What's happening?" Grandad said, climbing from his bunk. We ran to our seats and strapped ourselves in. I stared through the view screen and gasped. We were in the middle of the asteroid belt. The guide said, "The asteroid belt lies between Mars and Jupiter." "Please, guide," Grandad said. "Shut up." But of course the guide took no notice. Asteroids can be as small as a house or as big as a few 100 kilometres across. They are made of rock and metal.
Oh, shut up, you little stupid.
The ship was flying
I wish I
itself.
could like throw him on the ground and turn on him 1,000 times.
You can't because he's made of light.
What?
Because he's a hologram. Shh, it's time for sleeping for you
Would I
anyway.
literally go through him?
Yeah, can you try and go to sleep, please? I'm reading this so you'll go to sleep.
It's me.
I'm just chatterboxing. The ship was flying itself through the asteroids, which tumbled past us like a torrent of falling stones. I thought we were going to crash into one at any second. I looked at Grandad. He was staring with wide eyes through the view screen. I wondered if he was remembering the crash all those years ago. "There are more than 50,000 asteroids in the belt," the guide went on. I really didn't want to know that. It seemed that every one of them was trying to smash into us. At that second, we did hit something.
What?
The ship shook and clanged like a bell. "Emergency! Automatic steering damaged. The pilot must take over and fly on manual." Grandad looked over at me. "That means I've got to get us through the asteroids myself, without the help of the computer." I held on to my seat while Grandad pressed buttons and tapped at the control panel. His hands moved in a blur as he plotted our course through the tumbling asteroids. I covered my eyes when a big rock loomed up on us, but the smash never came. I opened my eyes. We were still racing through the asteroid belt. Big rocks rushed towards us, but Grandad steered the ship out of the way again and again. I held on to my seat as we swerved this way and that. It was like being on the fastest roller coaster in the world. I stared at Grandad as he pressed buttons and switches. He looked fearful and excited at the same time. Then a huge rock loomed up in front of us. "Hold on tight, Billy!" Grandad yelled. I gripped the arms of my seat and shouted in fear. The rock filled the view screen, but at the very last second, Grandad pulled the ship up and away from the asteroid. Done it, he said. Seconds later, he was steering us through the last of the asteroids, and he was smiling like I'd never seen him smile before. His cheeks were wet with tears. Minutes later, Grandad sat back in his seat and said, I've done it, Billy. I've done it. We're safe. Through the screen. Can you stop putting your hands in your mouth? Because I think that's stopping you going to sleep. Through the screen, I saw that we had passed through the asteroid belt. Clear space lay ahead of us.
I need to feel my teeth. A bit bumpy. No, I feel.
No, I don't want to feel it. I want you to go to sleep. Through the screen, I saw that we had passed through the asteroid belt. Clear space lay ahead of us, and in the distance I made out the small blue shape of planet Earth. I was crying too. I flung myself at Grandad and hugged him. 2 hours later, we were back in the junkyard. Grandad brought us down between the piles of scrap metal and old starships. We sat in silence for a while, and then I said, Grandad, that was the best weekend I've ever had in all my life. He smiled and shook his head. I never thought I'd get us past the asteroids. I had a sudden idea. Perhaps, I said, we could go back one day and this time land on Mars. That would be really exciting, Grandad said. But first I've got to get you back home in time for Sunday dinner. We climbed down from the ship and left the junkyard. I looked up into the night sky. Grandad, I said, I've just thought of something. What? He said. I pointed up at the full moon. The guide never told us about our moon. Grandad laughed. Then I'll tell you all about it, he said. As we walked hand in hand through the city...
And there are lots of moons in space.
Yeah, it seems like it. I didn't know that before, but it seems like all the planets have got moons.
Is that actually real? Are we done?
No, we're not finished yet. Look, can you please go to sleep? Look, we've got all the space facts to come. Can you please go to sleep? He's about to tell us about the moon. The moon is the only satellite of planet Earth. And it
What's a satellite?
A satellite is something, if you've got the main thing...
Oh, what?
You've got the main thing. A satellite is something that's a bit away from the main thing and normally goes around it.
They've got the world.
It's kind of attached to it, but it's a satellite. So satellites, moons are satellites in space and they're attached to the main planet by gravity.
So, you know a string and there's a rock on the end and you swing it around.
Yeah.
And there's a head. And you swing it around. But the head does it.
Oh, like that game.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's smart to play that game with a rock, but
A phone?
that's not really a satellite, no. I suppose...
Like, very, very slowly.
Herbie, just
No.
empty your mind and just listen to the book and close
I
your
can't
eyes.
empty
You told
my
me you were very tired and you're not going to sleep.
Yeah, my legs are all tired. That's what I know.
Okay. The moon is the only satellite of planet Earth, and it's a little over 384,000 kilometres away from Earth. It has no air and no life. In 1969, chill out. Sleeping, come on. In 1969, Neil Armstrong was the first person to walk on the moon. Moon, space ace. Laughing, we hurried home. Grandad's amazing space journals. This is all the facts that the granddad wrote about space. Sizzling facts about the sun. The sun is 5 billion years old and almost 150 million kilometres from the Earth. The temperature at the core of the sun is 15 million Kelvin. In 5 billion years' time, the sun will swell into a huge red ball. It will grow 150 times bigger than it is now and shine 1,000 times brighter. Miraculous facts about Mercury. Mercury is the second smallest planet in the solar system, and it is the closest planet to the sun. Mercury is named after the Roman messenger of the gods. The planet has no moons. Feed Graham the Martian gerbil before the next spaceflight. Venus. A year on Venus, the time it takes the planet to move around the sun, lasts for 224 Earth days. Venus is yellow because of all the sulfuric acid in the atmosphere. This may come from active volcanoes. Venus has no moons. Venus is named after the Greek goddess of love and beauty. 40 years ago today, I walked on Mars. Mars. Mars takes 687 Earth days to move around the sun, so a year on Mars is much longer than an Earth year. Mars is named after the Roman god of war. The atmosphere on Mars is made up of lots of different gases: carbon dioxide, nitrogen, argon, and tiny amounts of oxygen, carbon monoxide, and water vapour. It is thin and deadly to human beings. Jubilant facts about Jupiter. Jupiter moves slowly around the sun, so that a year lasts for 12 years. It spins very quickly, so that a day lasts for almost 10 hours. The cloud top temperature is minus 150 degrees centigrade. Jupiter is named after the ruler of the Roman gods. Fabulous facts about Saturn. A year on Saturn lasts for almost 30 Earth years. A day, the time Saturn takes to spin on its axis, lasts for just 10 Earth hours. The cloud top temperature is minus 180 degrees centigrade. Saturn is named after the Roman god of farming and the harvest. Remember Billy's birthday present? He likes lunar chalks. Ultimate facts about Uranus. Uranus is named after the Greek god of the heavens. It was discovered in 1781 by William Herschel. The cloud top temperature is minus 220 degrees centigrade. Uranus is 4 times larger than Earth, and it is the 3rd largest planet in the solar system. Nifty facts about Neptune. Neptune is named after the Roman god of the sea. It was discovered in the 1840s by John Couch Adams, Urbain Le Verrier, and Johann Gottfried Gall. A day lasts for just over 19 Earth hours. Neptune is the 4th largest planet in the solar system. Tomorrow, meet Space Joe at the Pluto pub for a pint of Jupiter juice. 4 facts about Pluto. Pluto spins slowly on its axis, so that a day on Pluto lasts for 6 Earth days.
Its atmosphere is made up of methane. There may be nitrogen too. Pluto is named after the Roman god of the underworld and darkness. The planet was discovered by Clyde Tombaugh in 1930. Buy a pair of space socks. You can wear them all week and they won't smell. Famous people in space. The Russian cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin was the first person to go into space when he flew right round the Earth in 1961. In 1962, John H. Glenn was the first American astronaut to fly around the Earth. In 1963, Valentina Tereshkova was the first woman in space. In 1965, the Russian Alexei Leonov was the first person to walk in space. Author fact file Eric Brown. How many times have you been to space? I go into space every time I write a science fiction book. Do you think the moon's really made of cheese? Yes, blue gorgonzola, I think. What's your favourite animal? A Martian gerbil. Do you think there's life on other planets? Yes, the universe is full of alien beings. How old were you when man landed on the moon? I was 9 in 1969 and I watched the moon landing on TV. Which do you prefer, Galaxy or Milky Way? Both at the same time, with a pint of Grandad's Jupiter juice.